they're doing well, and they look like a well-oiled machine right now. They go up against the Monkeys today. And the Monkeys definitely in a position where they have surprised a lot of people.
Yeah.
They have said from the get-go, listen, we are still going to university, we're doing this half-time, we invest less time than other teams in practice, but we're still taking our practice time and also the games very seriously. And a lot of people expected them to actually not do that and go into these games and basically just like half-ass them a little bit. That wasn't the case, and all of a sudden they took games of opponents where nobody really expected it, so they're looking strong.
Yeah, they're definitely a machine, but maybe the full AI is not there yet. We'll have to see how it's going to be paying off for them as we go ahead and check out the schedule for our teams on this Saturday. First off, as mentioned, Method and Monkeys will be facing off afterwards. Fnatic and Leftovers coming at you. That's a match that I don't know is going to be the winner here. Fnatic, strong, but struggling here and there. Leftovers having their own strengths too.
Yeah, it would still shock me though if Leftovers are able to take the series, but we have seen a lot of surprises already. Fnatic needs to bring their A game here today. It's not only important for them to win the series, they also need to make sure that ideally they take it with 3-0 since they lost already to 2 direct competitors. But it's not the only games that we have today. We have Team Octalysis coming afterwards up against Team Simplicity here in North America. Heroes Hearth facing off against Team No Tomorrow.
That's right. We only have 2 more weeks actually after this weekend before we decide who is going to the Western Clash. So again, as we continue to remind you guys at home, these matches are important. Fnatic and Leftovers are looking for those wins. Get that 2-on-2 going in there. Try to be in the middle of the pack for the top 4 teams that are going to the Western Clash. Now, let's go ahead and focus on the Monkeys and Method here as we check in with them to see what exactly they think about the match coming your way.
I think the Monkeys look better this season, which is a bit surprising, I think, because I don't think they practiced that much so far, but they still showed up versus Liquid, I think, and then they beat Zealots. And in our series versus the Monkeys, I expect us to take the win, and I really hope it's a 3-0, but maybe they will pull something cheesy out, I don't know. But I expect the win.
The team atmosphere in the team is awesome. I think one of our biggest strengths and weaknesses at the same time is the way we take stuff lighthearted. If we lose and have fun. If we win and have fun. I think we have a weakness in the way that we will obviously practice less than most other HGC teams. The other teams in the HGC practice around 6 hours a day, and we currently, due to studying and working at the same time, are practicing 3 hours a day. I think Method have been looking really great lately since the roster changes. I think currently they are number 2 together with Team Liquid and maybe Fnatic. I don't think our chances are great against Method, but if we can create the meta where we outdraft them, I definitely think we have a shot at beating them.
The Monkeys are looking for a way here today to peel that banana and reveal that potassium. Get a big win here over Method, but Method, they've had that chemistry. It seems like with Bad Bunny and ADRD coming back to the team, even though some have mentioned that it looks like a shadow of the older team, they still look great.
It's actually a discussion that I also had with Bad Bunny a little bit, because we heard that from Dignitas, that I don't know who it was, if it was Poik or if it was Snitch, but one of the two mentioned that he feels the team is a shadow of the old Expert lineup. And so far, everyone that I talked to on the side of Expert actually, or Method now, disagreed with that and said that they feel they're already incredibly strong, and given that they just reformed, they feel they have a lot of potential to bring this even further so that they will overshadow the old lineup by quite a bit. So, and I have to agree with that. I think they're looking fantastic right now, and given a bit more time, that should work in their favor too.
For them to get to their full power, they need to make sure they get a win today. And let's go ahead and start this series as we move into game number 1. The Battleground will be Tomb of the Spider Queen. Now, Brax's Holdout is banned out by the Monkeys, whereas the other side, Sky Temple, banned by Method.
And this could be a chaotic one. There's going to be a jungle between the two teams here. Method with a lot of aggression throughout this entire phase already, and the same goes for the Monkeys, who are definitely able and willing to play a couple of off-meta picks every now and then if they think it fits on the map. So Game 1 is going to be important. Another snowball map, so that could go either way, depending a lot on the draft, which Alex echoed already. He said if we can create the meta for the series, if we are the ones who dictate the drafts, then we're going to have a really solid shot of taking it. But it's against ADRD, so that's going to be a tough one.
They'll have to bring surprises, that's for sure, because historically between these two teams, Method has pulled ahead 5 out of the 7 games they've had. That includes playoffs as well, where the Monkeys have only won 2. So Method seems to have their number, and as you mentioned with ADRD being on this crew, getting ahead in the draft is usually a difficult task to pull off. We'll see if anything fresh will come out here. I am looking forward to seeing what our first pick's going to be. Genji, as you have mentioned, has had a 100 participation rate. He has been in every game in terms of bans or picks, but Urel as well has become first pick worthy for some of our teams.
Exactly, Urel is really high up at this point. You still have bans very consistently on Tracer and Genji, depending on the map. Abathur is sneaking in there too. But there's definitely a few adjustments that we've seen, especially when it comes to supports. Malfurion has started to fall off slightly. Deckard has taken that spot to an extent, depending on the map that's being played. So there's some variations that we have. And especially when ADRD is drafting and when you see the Monkeys in the same game, there's a lot that can happen.
And don't forget about Blaze. Blaze showing up a lot yesterday, especially paired with Diablo. Zealots in particular showed off that combination. We'll see if we're going to have anything of that happening on Tuma's Spider Queen. Monkey on the right side, opening up with their bans, and we'll see if they try to take away Tracer or Genji, which is the typical bans we've been seeing.
Yeah, and in this case, it's actually Tassadar that they're targeting. We've seen quite a few double support setups already where you try to get one hyper carry in play, and you can, with Vala, be more aggressive. You can play it around Tracer. So Monkeys are trying to target that. It's also targeting from the get-go the hero pool of ADRD. And in this case, it is a lot of vision that Tassadar provides. He has the wave clear, has the vision when you want to get your turn in, when you want to deny to your opponent. So he gets a lot of value on this map.
Second ban coming in for Method. Now, with a Tassadar ban, that kind of messes up the draft that you normally would have with that Genji Tracer, so you have to decide whether or not you want to give away potentially a Tracer by banning Genji, or if you want to try and leave both open and available to you by banning someone else. Method elects to go ahead and ban out Genji, which will leave that Tracer up and available, but with that Tassadar being there, you kind of pinch yourself in the foot a little bit as a first pick, as you won't be able to move in that double support hyper carry that we've been seeing.
Exactly. So if you want to play the Tracer style, then it's very likely that we're going to see an attempt of locking down Malfurion as well, since that synergy still works. We have seen it also in play together with, let's say, Deckard Cain. But normally, in that case, you're trying to get another pseudo support in. We've seen the variation of going into Abathur instead of Tassadar when Tassadar has been targeted, but that's not traditionally a hero that you see on this map. Now, we've seen attempts of making Abathur work, and that was in the old Zealots lineup, so ADRD's old team, so it's still an option, I would say, at some point. But I would say it's still a bit of an outlier draft that they will only pull if it really works out. And in that case, Abathur would make it in as a very late pick and not an early one.
Yeah, if you're going to go after this battleground, you have to do well in the early game. You got to make sure that the web weavers aren't pushing you in, because he does not help with clearing out the pushes coming your way. Now, looking over the right side, Monkeys will move into Malfurion. Malfurion does get a little bit more priority on this battleground compared to Deckard Cain due to the ability to poke with that Moonfire. We've been seeing a little bit more here and there. But again, we might be seeing Cain a little bit more often on other battlegrounds than that first pick.
It's also a nice preparation pick if you want to play with Tracer. You can use Malfurion first, and your opponent now has to address, okay, do we want to pick Tracer away? If they do, one of the good synergies with supports is already gone, so it's a question, can we still make that work? But you just open up a path. And, well, we have Urel as a super early pick, so Goat Girl once again in the game.
There she is, and with that pick, we have decided that HGC will subscribe to Goat Facts. And I have the first fact for you, Caldor. Are you ready to learn about goats?
Hit me. I'm totally ready.
Here is the first fact. Goats do not like to get wet and prefer to seek shelter when it is raining.
That is actually really interesting.
That is really interesting.
By the way, did you know that goats were the first animals that humans used for milk?
Really?
Yeah. No kidding.
That is interesting. Well, today you have learned here at the HGC. You are welcome for the facts. We'll continue every time that Urel gets picked up to make sure to update you on more information about your favorite animal, the goat.
And just look at it. It's entertainment, and you learn something as well. Education, too. So when you're asked by someone, why are you watching HGC? It's because I learn.
Better than Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh, yeah.
That's for sure. Phoenix comes in for that second pick here for Method, so we'll have that continued poke that you would normally see. Things that Monkeys need to be thinking about now. Diablo, Thrall, things that provide slows on their heroics. And usually you'll see a Diablo kind of counter pick because of that, and it might be good here on Tuma Spider Queen. Monkeys instead, though, moved in Johanna and Tracer.
And there we have Tracer. So again, you pick Malfurion early, If your opponent is willing to take Tracer away from you, then they have to deal with Tracer not being really supported by a lot of heroes that lend the synergy to her. But for Monkeys, it's still an option. Now, they didn't have to go down that path, but it was an option for them depending on what's being picked by Method. And they decide they want to play Tracer here. So now they have Malfurion, Tracer as a setup, Hazard is not available. They are actually the ones that banned it out. They can still add some layers of defense depending on what they try to prioritize. In this case, Blaze is even taken away because Method wanted to address that also on that solo lane. But really cool draft from Monkeys. So a lot of the burden is already on the shoulders of our Tracer player.
Blaze being banned out also makes sure that the salvo goes or does not go through and put out that damage. So we'll see if Monkeys will be able to ban out someone that is important here for Phoenix to get that coordination. As mentioned before, Diablo can be one, Thrall as well. But I feel like Thrall, with you already being on this field, you're not going to get a Thrall pickup unless you want to keep him in the 4-man, which can start to be a little bit difficult. You start to get a little kind of melee heavy at that point. Any other bans you think are going to sort of pop up here for them?
I mean, from a lore perspective, you would also think that one good counter against Urel would be the Butcher, since he's always looking for fresh meat.
Yeah.
That is a layer that the HGC pros have not really picked up on yet.
It's a difficult one.
Yeah.
You need to be a mechanical god to play
Yeah,
Butcher.
it's a little bit hidden. It's like an onion, and you need to peel those outer layers away first before you arrive at that fact. But yeah, Butcher, like the Butcher likes goats, I heard, and he is always up for that fresh meat. So if that ever comes into play, I don't know, maybe Jayhawk can answer that one. It's been a huge... Like, you actually are playing a lot of...
Only for a week, I'm
games.
done with. After I went through my win streak of like, what'd I go, like, it was like 25-4 or something. And then the new season starts. I played Butcher 3 times. Guess how many wins I've had? It starts with a Z and it's a 0. I've given up on the Butcher life. That was just a moment, you know, a little edgy moment that I've had in my career.
So you went vegetarian?
I went full vegetarian, yeah. That's the plan, dude. Broccoli and cheddar. That's all you're getting from me from now on. Third and fourth pick coming in for Method. Still looking at their main tank.
Yeah, so I could have totally seen Monkeys maybe target Diablo, as we said, because that Lightning Breath together with the Salvo has been a consistent synergy that teams are looking for.
Yep. But
going into a ban on Deckard makes a lot of sense, since he has that amazing zone control on the map. And we highlighted several times how he's now starting to really make his way in the upper priorities in draft. I mean, Deckard Cain so far is sitting at 18 wins and 9 losses. For support, that's absolutely fantastic. So really nice target ban by the Monkeys. And that forces Method now, of course, to deviate away from those two top supports, Malfurion and Deckard, and they go into Karazim, who's also been played a lot more this season already. So in Phase 2, Karazim has shown up consistently for teams.
Muradin has become a major stay for Bad Benny. He has really appreciated that hero.
Muradin is the top tank at the moment. Muradin is actually, next to Malfurion, the heroes that has been involved in most games. He has seen 39 games so far, 20 wins, 19 losses, so a very stable win rate for him too. Like, he's definitely the high priority tank in general, if you just look across all maps and don't go for a specific one. Because obviously there's some maps where other heroes can excel. I mean, we always highlight the wave play of Johanna on Tomb of the Spider Queen. She has been addressed first by Monkeys, but Muradin is currently the top tank in the game.
He started to also really pair well with Urel. I flash back to the days of Muradin and Sonya being together, where Muradin would jump in, hit a Stormbolt, Sonya would come in with that Poison Spear, and then try to blow up a target. Urel's not that much damage up front, but the idea of sticking to a target is there, and you can really disrupt that back line. So Muradin and Urel and Karazim will allow for Method to pick targets that they want to clean up. And usually, you want to stay away from a Chromie when you have a Muradin on the opposing team, but Monkeys, they believe here as they move straight into Chromie and Leoric for their 4th and 5th pickup.
Now for Chromie, the level 8 or level 10 will be a pick that we have to watch out for, since normally we're seeing Time Loop these days. But if you have a Karazim on the other side, he gets, of course, his Cleansing Touch later on in the game.
Yeah.
So you have to really judge for yourself. Is that time frame that you have between Chromie's level 8 and the level 16 on Karazim really enough where you feel, okay, here I'm going to get my value? Because afterwards, the Cleansing Touch on Karazim is basically negating that completely. So there is a strong possibility that we are going to see Chromie heading into Slowing Sands instead.
I think I would agree with that, especially with them having so many melees on the opposing team, having a little bit of control, making it a little bit harder for them to get to that back line. Having a Slowing Sands would be a nice pickup for them, especially with the facts that you just mentioned there.
I feel you can make it a situational pickup if you actually are ahead around level 8 already and you think, okay, we can snowball it.
Get a talent,
if we get these kills, then maybe it makes sense to go for it. But after 16, you lose a lot of that. And this is actually a really cool pick, again, from on the side of ADRD. Going into Medivh here, it's one of the heroes that has been targeted specifically over and over when teams were facing off against ADRD's team, because he's just so strong on that hero, and that of course helps you also to protect your own allies of the damage that comes from Chromie.
Birds, goats, and beards. That's a draft here for Method as they're looking to get aggressive on top of Chromie. Having the ability to portal away also mitigates the mistakes that you can make when you're trying to dive that composition. Say you jump in, you find a time trap, and then a combo is coming your way. Medivh, of course, can deal with that, as mentioned by Counter, with their Force of Will, but also allow you to disengage and reassess and then reset up to move in for another engagement. So looking at the drafts here, you like Method or Monkeys?
I actually like both. I think that on the side of the Monkeys, it's a lot of individual play where people have to excel, and that's particularly true for Tracer, especially with the only solo support. So we have two heroes that need to have a huge impact. That's Chromie, that's Tracer. The two of them have to work together. Chromie needs to land all the shots, and Tracer can capitalize on them by staying safe. But when you look over to Method, I feel they have definitely taken most of the synergy that we now have. You have really nice setups there. It's a beefy front line. Also, there's a lot of mobility there. It's not only the portals on Medivh's side, but you have Karazim who can jump in. You have Muradin who can follow that up, of course, and also Urel. So that's going to put pressure onto Chromie. The peel needs to be there from Johanna. So I think it's a pretty solid draft from both. And it depends a lot on how the rotation, the four-man goes at the start of the game.
Yeah, I think if I were to remove names here, I wouldn't mind Monkey's draft here if I were to pick it slightly, 55-45, just slightly. But knowing the teams here, knowing Medivh on the left side here for Method and how strong they've looked, I feel like they're going to be the ones going to pull ahead. It's just a matter of seeing first game and seeing where the Monkeys are performing today. Let's go straight in to Tuma Spider Queen and check out this best of 5 series coming at you between Method and the Monkeys.
Game number 1, ladies and gentlemen. The Monkeys are going up against Method, and we have ADRD on Medivh on the left side for Team Method. Seeing Bad Benny again on Muradin, his priority tank so far in Phase 2. Nick on Phoenix once more, one of his go-to heroes these days. Ethereal, of course, on the offlane. He's going to play Urel in this game. And Curson is on Karazim.
On the right side, in the red, Crosby on Chromie, Splendor on Malfurion, Alex Aprogi on the York, Rimmer on Johanna, and Make back on Tracer. We haven't seen a Tracer from Make in a few games now. Usually banned out against him.
One of the things I really want to highlight when we're talking about Bad Benny, you already talked a bit about it during the draft and said that he is really on the Muradin hype train these days. And I just want to put some numbers to that. They had 12 games so far, and they played Muradin 8 times. So they pick him on 66-67% of all the games that they play. And that just underlines again how powerful Muradin is these days, but also how much of an affinity Bad Benny has for the hero. His pick rate on Muradin is higher than any other team when it comes to Muradin.
Muradin is just a strong hero individually if you're able to force the fights that you want. The main concern that he has is that his wave clear is pretty lackluster, and it's quite an issue to deal with. So if Hero League, if you might pick him up, you might be having a hard time with the Muradin. But in competitive play, when you can tell your teammates, hey, I can't wave clear, they usually will set you up and make sure you're covered on that basis. So you have this great tank that can engage, has solid sustain, has damage builds if you need to move into. And that's why you're seeing Muradin so much here in the HGC.
Yeah, and talking about damage builds, we have Perfect Storm taken on level 1, and we've been talking a lot about that talent, and also Third Wind, of course. But here it's really the attempt to go in and drop a target, especially when you try and get close to Chromie, when you're able to land that Stormbolt on Tracer. So he's going to attempt throughout the game to make exactly that work.
Nick, for now, continues to stay in the middle, and we'll watch ADRD. He'll be one of those wild cards in the matches, making sure that the pulse bombs that come out are negated by the Force of Will, but also the teleports, just to make sure that the portals are in position to make sure his teammates are not getting picked off. And so far, he's shown that. We've been seeing Muradin play a little bit aggressive against Tracer, looking for those Storm Bolts, and so far, he's already hit one, but he also has the ability to back up, thanks to ADRD.
Yeah, and so far we see the bot lane visited frequently by heroes that try to move back down and just offset the balance a little bit between the two solo laners. Make here still with the pressure plays, attempting to get Bad Benny low, and of course with the continuous attacks also preventing his trade to proc and heal him back up again. But when we come to wave clear, the Monkeys are actually looking pretty strong here in the early game with the Johanna rotation between the mid and the top lane. Bad Benny already setting up for another attempt to put pressure onto Alex, who, by the way, doesn't really push the lane out too much. He's still trying to stay safe here and stays pretty close to his own towers.
And that wave clear will go up too, with 4 connecting. Leora getting Neil Peasants. Gonna tell everyone's minions to get cleared up. We'll be able to rotate between the bottom and middle lane as he needs to. There we go. Johanna coming up with the Condemn in the top, and as we hit 4 for our teams, look like nothing major different here for all of our picks. Have that parting gift coming in for Tracer, who will be looking to get those snipes on anyone in the back line.
Yeah, especially in the solo lane. If you can damage one of the heroes on the solo lane, you make it much easier for your own solo laner to control the lane, or at least not lose it. So that's one of the reasons why we see those continuous rotations down to the bottom of the map. Another reason, of course, is that the lanes are very close together, so it's easier for you to set up a gank and try and make a play here. And especially at the bottom lane, you're trying to get the Siege Giant camp eventually. Teams have been a lot more aggressive about attempting to get that camp. So you see oftentimes when heroes are missing on the map, someone rotating down just in case that the opponent is starting to make a play for it, so that you can interrupt. It's one of the reasons why a lot of teams are not as aggressive anymore about it as they have been in the past, because people have started to really figure out that they need to keep a close eye on it.
Alex Proji takes some damage here in the top lane. Now 17 gems, he's got to be a bit careful. But at the same time, Monkeys immediately run down the Giant Cam once they see that aggression. Medivh, however, floating down, will have that portal be able to... Thurl's already sniffed us out. He comes in for the invade.
Yeah, and you see exactly what I've been talking about a second ago. We have Team Method moving down and trying to contest the camp, but Crosby is now here too, and he puts the pressure on the Bad Benny. Benny is low, and he doesn't really have a lot of mobility there, but the portal comes out, saves him for now, and it's Method who steals the camp away. Barely, but they are able to take it. And Alex is also about to fall here, dropping the gems. Maka is attempting to move in. Ethereal claiming the space and just denying the gems to the Menagerie.
Big play for Method. Taking away the Giants, being able to push in the middle or the bottom lane, also preventing 17 gems from being picked up. Bad Benny low on health, but another portal gets him out. Even a Force of Will for good measure to make sure that he cannot be sniped off.
It showcases pretty much the exact thought process that I was explaining a bit earlier. The Monkeys were willing to make the play, but with 2 heroes missing on the map, Method immediately realized that there's a good chance that they are busy at the Siege Giant camp. So they rotated down, and they rotated down in force. It wasn't only 1 or 2 heroes. Everyone started rotation at the bottom of the map. Once that they picked up on the plan of the Monkeys, they committed to it fully. And the Monkeys just really couldn't make that play in time. And it's one of the big problems that you oftentimes have here on the map if you go for the Siege Giant camp. You need someone to zone the opponent out, or you need to be fast enough with your wave clear to just sneak it in. In this case, it absolutely backfired. Gems were lost as Leoric falls, and they lose the camp too. So it's definitely a bit of a weird spot for Monkeys to be in. Method has taken a lead in the game.
Divine Pig coming online for level 7 here for Urel, looking to rotate pretty often. I see you smirking over there.
That's right, man.
We're going to change it. One step at a time. More damage in the middle, though, as we have Tracer coming in. Nick trying to go for that turn-in, having 22 gems. Would love to drop off these gems if he can. Being able to get the web weavers moving in, but Monkey's doing everything in their power to stop that from occurring. However, over time, Slender has gotten pretty darn low on mana.
Yeah, and both teams have at this point enough gems to secure that turn-in. For the Monkeys, it would be important. They already lost gems. It would be great for them to start with the first objective and maybe get a kill with it. And here we have Slowing Sands for Chromie on level 8. As explained before, once the Kharazim hits his cleansing touch, it's really difficult to get value out of the temporal loop. So it makes a lot of sense to go into the Slowing Sands here. Crosby, really low, and Nick was trying to go in for the killing blow, but cannot close the distance in time, and we had already Rimmerballer starting to zone him out here.
Still, that damage might be enough to allow for a turn-in. Crosby comes over and starts to poke. Having that Time Walker's Pursuit gives him the vision to aim down person. Comes over one more time for that Sandblast. Stormbolt hitting Make in the middle of the map. But again, Method is trying to drop off these gems. 14 on Curse, and they have 63 in total. They are trying to control space. They actually portal straight onto Chromie, and Crosby falls. And
welcome to the problem. That's exactly the strategy on Method side. We've been talking about it when we was mentioning Muradin here and their approach of going for Chromie. And that portal setup that we see from ADRD is exactly the situation that Crosby is going to face from now on in the game. The portal onto Chromie, Muradin goes through, hits the Stormbolt, and once that's secured, the damage has an easy time picking her off. So great kill against Chromie, and that leads to Method securing the first turn-in. And now the Monkeys find themselves in that awkward spot where your opponent pushes with an objective and is close to level 10, so they can start diving you at the forts to try and secure additional kills.
Yeah, this is definitely Akko Taco. A Thorough already on the bottom lane, set up for some aggression. You have Bad Benny around the corner, trying to follow up any Tracer engagement that happens, and Tracer does bite the dust as she moves into Ethereal. Stormbolt doesn't connect, however, so he continues to poke, but here is the Web Weavers. There goes the turret, and next will be the forts.
Maka is just trying to secure the damage here, and he needs to be super careful for exactly that reason. The continuous Stormbolts from Bad Benny and the mobility that we are seeing. So far, he's doing a fantastic job dodging the Stormbolts. The problem just comes into play once that he's hit. If at any point a Stormbolt connects, the follow-up is going to be there, and that's going to make it very, very difficult for him to survive, since there is no Tacita shield.
Okay. dancing here in the bottom left, waiting at that portal duration, wants to be able to zap out if he can. Athero, however, puts damage on Alex Proji in the front line. Still kiting away to the back. Blessed Shield comes out. Monkey Menagerie is trying to force a fight. Our defender pops out, but the Pulse Bomb connects afterwards. Silence comes in, and Yrel falls.
And that's a big one. That's gems that they could just secure. Benny is trying to get a few, and that was a perfect entomb that we just saw there. Benny is in trouble. There's no bomb available on the other hand. He gets slowed down, and there's still the shield for Medivh. He barely gets out. But that was a fantastic approach by the Monkeys after Benny moved in and was trying to jump away. So job well done by both teams here. A great opportunity created and Method reacting well with ADRD allowing the escape.
Nick, during that entire duration, was pushing. He got the top 4, put some damage in the middle. Bad Benny continuing to take a lot of damage on that front line, but with the portals coming out, he is just fine. Hopping to the top left, using that armor trait to make sure the Pulse Bomb does not take him out. Rimmer, however, finally gets to drop off a couple of gems, so Monkeys answer back. They got their own kills and got their own turn-in.
Of course, Method with the first turn-in secured a fort at the top lane, so that's not going to be easy to mirror now for the Monkeys, but they are going to have most of their cooldowns back, and that's actually another opportunity for them to secure kills. With the Blessed Shield, if they're able to put that into play, maybe against Medivh here, maybe against Phoenix, they might be able to secure that kill. And they're actually trying already against ADRD, and that was a close one.
Ooh, the
Here's the Entomb, and this is looking good for them. But ADRD still survives, and there's just not enough damage. Chromie goes in, and she finishes the job and loses the stacks on the side of Medivh.
The Drogon's Eye connecting, getting the damage in, and now Monkeys will be able to push out this middle wave, potentially the top, as well as the Web Weavers are on their way with the minions. Monkeys really needing that kill, and they definitely do find it. Bottom lane gets cleared up here by Athero. Alex will try to delay that as long as possible and try to grab the turrets if possible. But the fort in the middle, all by its lonesome, and even a Bad Benny. He's able to jump out, though.
He jumps out again. So Method killed a fort at the top lane a bit earlier. Monkey see, Monkey do. They take a fort down in the middle of the map, so they mirror what we've seen from Method. I was proud of that one.
Well played, dude.
Thank you.
That's one of those that you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're like, I can make this joke. Splinter gets blown up, though, as Bad Benny jumps in.
You explaining it just makes it funny. Yeah, Splinter down, but Make might fall as well. Nice move by him. Both of them, actually, but Make is still not out of this. He gets taken apart. It's actually Medivh who takes him out, so it's a bit of a revenge move for what happened earlier here when he was losing the stacks. But I'm really liking this. It's just a constant back and forth. But the problem for the Monkeys heading into that fight was obviously that they were a talent down. With a level 13 talent for Method, they had a bit of an upper hand here, and they still have the gem count they need to secure the second turn-in for themselves. But yeah, a really explosive first game that we see between the two of them. Like
the explosions continue. Leoric has to Wraith Walk away. ADRD just dropping the portal. He doesn't mind. That fort now exposed. Should be able to take some damage from the minions and potentially killed by the Web Weavers. Method groups up, pushes out the middle and the top. And they're going to start moving towards the middle of the map here.
Let's talk also a bit about quest talents. We have currently Medivh at 3 stacks. Obviously, he lost his stacks a bit earlier. Benny jumping out, but the portal is always there. It's these layered escape tools that we see for Method, thanks to ADRD's Medivh, that are just so difficult to deal with. But as we said, Medivh is sitting on 3 stacks now since he died once. Muradin currently on 21 Stormbolt stacks. And we're seeing Crosby on his Chromie with 38. So it's actually not too bad. It's nothing too crazy, but he's definitely getting the stacks in.
38, needing a good 22 more, be able to get the 60 that he needs. A fort in the middle. Goes down quite easily. Yrel, grouping up with the Web Weaver on the bottom, is going to set up the next push here for Method as they look to get a keep wall and maybe some keep damage. Monkeys realize that they are in a 4 spot. They're going to split up and clear out the other lanes, and that gives time for Method to put all 5 down here in the south and do as much damage as possible.
One of the thoughts on the Monkeys' mind now is, do we engage here? Do we force that 13 fight, or do we wait until 16 and play the long game? That's definitely something that they're concerned about. The question is always, how can you force these fights? And it's mostly around entombs that we are talking about here. The problem is, of course, that you still have the ability of Medivh to just portal anyone out. And that's actually a big concern. And it's not only that. You have a lot of mobility on Method's side. So even if you land that entomb, Karazim can dash out. We have the portal set up by Medivh. Yrel simply hops out of it. The same is true for Muradin. And you have the warp on Phoenix. So you need to follow the entombs up, ideally with a silence on Malfurion and a good route, but it's difficult to really coordinate all of this. So the mobility of Method is just a huge concern.
We're getting to a situation where Monkeys might have to get desperate and call upon wild measures just to get a kill. Yeah, dude. So far they went in for a Blessed Shield, tried to get a fight in the bottom left corner, couldn't land it on Nick, and with 16 about to hit, fighting at a talent disadvantage with their keeps under siege, difficult.
Yeah, and we are currently seeing this baited here a bit, and they decide to move in. Interesting position here from the Monkeys that they want this fight. 16 on the other side. Here comes the ley line. The camp is stolen away, and this could backfire badly against the Monkeys now. They are under pressure. Rimmerballer's trying to get away. Ethereal is blocking him. Splendor is in trouble too. Icebook saves him for a second, but Leoric is already falling, and Malfurion is also dead. I'm a little bit... It's curious why they were not willing to try and take the camp a bit earlier.
This is a scary push. Double night camps, Webweaver in the middle of the map. Monkeys trying to delay a little bit longer there, maybe trying to get a little bit more defensive value out of those night camps, but it does not pay off for them. As Method comes in for the punish, Dragon's Eye comes out, puts some damage on ADRG, but Chromie falls, Ethereal goes forward. Alex approaches, he's about to be back, but will it be in time? The trait value was nice, but is it enough?
I don't think so. It's a 3-level lead already for Method, and they're just going ham at this point. They're committing fully to the core. They take Diablo out in the meantime too, and also Tracer is finally dead. That's going to be the end of game number 1 as Method takes the victory on 2 on Spider Queen.
Yowzer.
Am I missing something here on that engage? Like when them baiting the camp, trying like... Were they really thinking that because they had Slowing Sands and Chromie for the on-point damage, they could take that fight? They were baiting that out, right? There was no other reason.
Yeah, I don't know if it was like a full bait. I think they were trying to hold it a little bit longer for maybe defensive to have the night camp with them so they can sit back and hold it down, but...
They see AD floating there.
Yeah.
They know that Muradin's around because he locked that one Stormbolt onto Johanna, so Remmerballer was aware that Muradin is just around the corner. So why wouldn't you take that camp earlier just to secure it? I mean, I get that in an ideal world, you take it late so that you can have an easier time defending against the Webweavers in the mid lane. But I was the entire time thinking, am I missing something here? Like, take it, because once 16 hits, Method just looks at it and says, like, well, yeah, you have Slowing Sands there, and Chromie is going to fire on the spot, but she still has a cooldown, and all that ADRD has to do is drop one shield on Murder when he goes in. And all of a sudden, we have a perfect engage, and we have a tight space where we can get a good ley line, we can get a good salvo, so it's a bit of a weird move.
Maybe a lesser team would put too many people on top of that camp, and maybe you hit a good, decent Dragon's Eye on 2 or 3 people, but I don't know. Method just a little bit too controlled there, able to force the fight. You saw the amazing ley line steal. They had 4 people to make sure that they got that camp, and then, of course, they jumped on top of Chromie, able to secure that kill on Leoric, and, of course, that's all she wrote as the victories come in for Method. Now, let's go ahead and talk about Twitter. As we wait for you guys to always talk about these matches, hit us up on here.